captured high school teenagers. We judge without meaning and do anything to be popular. This book taught me how to stand out and be who I am, not who someone wants me to be. Honorable mention at level 3, Eleni Giopopoulos. She wrote a letter to Shel Silverstein, author of Where the Sidewalk Ends. She wrote, "It is the beat of your rhythms and melody of your rhymes that bring my words to life with music. And it is the proof that with what you gave me about the everlasting spirit of childhood that will stay with me always. I know in the days to come I will approach the dawn of my adulthood and independence, and that scares me. I know now that wherever I end up, the little girl who climbed that bookshelf still is I. And as long as I remember that place where the sidewalk ends, I can continue to climb and reach new heights." And at level 3, honorable mention, Paige, and I hope I get this right, Carrillo. Paige wrote a letter to F. Scott Fitzgerald, author of The Great Gatsby. And she wrote, "Mr. Fitzgerald, I would like to personally thank you for capturing the pure essence of the American spirit in your novel. It taught me of love, of greed, of happiness, but above all, it taught me that everyone has the green light in their eyes, but success is only given to those that follow it." Winners up to the front to receive your certificates, and then each of you will read your letters from the youngest to the oldest. At level 1, Kelly Gorman, 5th grader at Hampton Meadows School in Barrington, Rhode Island. The winner at level 2 is Amelia Papasfori, a 7th grader at Barrington Middle School. State winner is 12th grader Zachary Gardell of Terre Haute. Always the author of The Brave New World. So we will have our youngest winner. There she is.
Dear Miss Ruby Briggs, last year I read your book through my eyes. I not only loved your word choice, detail, photographs, background information, and pretty much everything else, but your book truly changes the way I look at the world, and it has led me to much further thinking. Almost every single day I remember you in your marvelous book whenever I see an African American. Even though I read it over a year ago, my thoughts always wander back to that 63-page book. At the mall, store, or even at soccer practice, I think to myself, seriously, what's the difference? Come on, just because African Americans may look a bit different than whites, or maybe from a different country, speak a different language, what is the real difference? I personally wonder what the whites thought they could accomplish with segregation. It was almost like being stuck in the mud for over 100 years, not really going anywhere. Why couldn't the whites and blacks just be equal, and the U.S. could have skipped all the separating? After reading this book, I realized that people are capable of acting so terrible to someone who never did anything to them. The whites were so unfair to the blacks. It seemed that every chance they had to be in the same place with African Americans, they preferred to be separated. The whites even had their own bathrooms, drinking fountains, and neighborhoods. They could be so cruel to someone with a different skin color, calling them names and staring at African Americans. How is that even legal? I have found myself asking others and myself. Before reading this book, I didn't know someone could do these things to poor innocent souls who never did anything to them. Just as they did to you, Ruby, when you were only trying to attend school that was really meant for everyone. I wonder how I would have acted if I were a child of the 1950s and 60s. skin color, but one trying to bring everyone closer together. Through My Eyes was very meaningful to me, not only because of the time that you took and the effort you had to make to ensure the reader could understand the text, but also because of how much it taught me. Before I read this book, I was almost clueless about this topic and didn't really know anything about the battle between blacks and whites. Your book taught me about integration, segregation, how the whites treated people who were really no different from them, and of course, I learned about the life of an innocent little girl, you. Thank you, Ruby. Love, your beautiful reader, Kelly Moore.
Next, we're going to hear from Amelia.
Dear Mrs. Holly Wilkerson, in the long run, everything begins and ends with love. Love creates you, love nurtures you. Love builds the walls of your life. And just as easily, love can be cruelly wrenched from your grasp. That's when the walls start to crumble. When you lose someone who is closest to you, like Willow does, you may isolate yourself within the pain, block everyone out of your life, and try to forget. You deny the nagging voice that keeps pestering you. Most of all, you change. When I first picked up Kind by Sevens, I was a bit skeptical. I read your book, I'll Be There, and loved it, but I wasn't completely drawn to Kind by Sevens. So, as I read, I came across quotes like, "We are all imperfect genetic stews." Quotes like this one struck a chord, and I was able to associate myself and others with them. Immediately after I discovered those poetic words which rang true to my ears, I delved headfirst into Willow's world. In order to comprehend the effect your book had, let me tell you the tale of my life. As a child, whenever I got hurt, either physically or emotionally, I shut down. I crawled away from any help that was offered and wallowed in my own pain. Maybe it was the symptom of being adopted from China, but I still disliked attention when I'm hurt. I also grieved when I first came home for a certain nanny that cared for me in the orphanage in China. These problems showed that the consequence of losing the only mother I knew had a great impact on me. Therefore, it was no surprise having two great friendships destroyed in third grade and then being rejected when I tried to continue those friendships greatly influenced my ability to judge and make friends. Your book, Kind by Sevens, helped me realize this. Open quote. The old me would have screamed from the crash. The new me expects these kinds of things. Close quote. Pain is a funny thing. People react to it in different ways. In Kind by Sevens, Willow changes drastically after her parents die, noticing what she would have done differently before the accident. In response to my pain after the loss of my friends, I indirectly isolated myself. There became two versions of me, the old me and the new me. But unlike Willow, I wasn't aware of the change. The old me would have been way more cheerful and enthusiastic. The new me hung back in the silence with a meager attempt to find a true friend. People reached out to me, but I couldn't always tell. I was too cautious. I didn't want to get hurt again. Open quote. I was told I lived too much inside my head. Maybe because of this. I've never really done well in school, and I've never had many friends. Close quote. Willow is an intellectual genius. But when it comes to human nature, I'm not quite sure where she stands. For the longest time, I thought I just lived social. But the real reason might have been I'm mainly a thinker and not a doer. Like Willow, I questioned people's behavior. It wasn't like there was a handbook on how to make friends lying about. My personal handbook was my head. When you want something as badly as I want a friend, you think about it constantly. You ponder on the finer points of the matter, but many times you don't take action. You just try to fit in. This continued year after year, and I did make some friends, but they were mainly temporary. Most of them eventually disappeared from my world. I always believed my friend-making skills were on the end, but that was my fantasy. It wasn't until 6th grade when I finally noticed someone making an effort to become my friend. It was a wonderful feeling to be wanted, similar to the way Willow felt when Patty first hugged her, despite the fact that Patty had just met Willow. Just a simple gesture could make a huge difference. One person can normally make an insignificant comment, and it can have the power to make your day or even alter your life. Open quote. I've never seen this person in my life. for her arms are around me, tight. Because she's so strong, you'd think her hug would choke me, but instead it's the first time I can get full breath into my lungs since I heard about what happened. You would never think such a small action could transform your life, but after experiencing that one act of true friendship, I couldn't see myself without it. Friends are now permanently part of my life. They are my life. Friends stand by you under any circumstance and devote themselves to you. My friends are the keys that protects me against all odds, and will eventually find to the age. May, Kwong Ha, Dell, Patty, and Gyro were the bars that fused together her cage that will never collapse down. True friends will always come back to you. If they are strong like May, accepting like Kwong Ha, selfless like Dell, stubborn like Patty, and faithful like Gyro, they will realize how much you mean to them before it's too late. If they're anything like Willow's friends, they probably won't ever have to question. They already know. You can judge a true friend based on Willow's cage. Since 6th grade and being carried by 7s, I no longer dwell on the past and pity myself. I notice more of the people around me. For once I feel like people accept me. That is less significant. I act like myself and people like me anyway. Your quote, if you're lost, you might need to swim against the tide, stayed with me throughout the entire book. It lingered in the back of my head until I finally knew its true meaning. Most people believe that the best way to get by is just to go with the flow, and fit in. They are wrong. Be different, be unique, be yourself. Fitting in is like hiding behind a mask when it's not even Halloween. Halloween only happens on October 31st, one day out of 365. Now as a 7th grader, reading this book, I decided to prepare for unusual or weird. Willow certainly didn't. I reciprocate my friendships are offered to me, and most of all, I keep on extending my friendship. I find it doesn't matter if you have a ton of friends, as long as you think you belong and feel comfortable. That's basically all that counts. Nothing is perfect, but right now, I'm doing great. I believe I've slowly progressed, and this new love has gradually begun to build the new walls in my life, brick by brick. Hopefully this time, my walls will be stronger and more durable. Then again, we are all imperfect gymnastics. Sincerely, Amelia Pettisford. Is it possible to be loved too much? I think not.
Dear Mr. Alex Huxley, STEM, focus in my education to find 4 simple letters: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Maybe it was the push of the STEM international level, maybe it was my parents, maybe it was just me. Whatever it was, my education up until this point had to focus on science and math. Needless to say, reading never trumps science. Case in point, to this day, teachers from a children's book on evolution remain vivid on memory, while tales of past kings and adventures in Narnia seem to have escaped from the greatest reaches of my recollection. Whether it was what I actually chose to do or what I was forced to do, reading forever sat on my back burner. It merged into something of a children. My eyes skimmed the endless pages of storyline, and a subconscious mathematician calculating pages left, percent completion, average reading speed, and the like. As the years sped by, books became lighter, addiction turned more complex, and reading went from taking out the trash to doing something to the extent of hitting the entire house. Stories are just stories to me. Never did I see the slightest application of my own life or the world around me for that matter. Brave New World changed all of that. You, Mr. Huxley, changed it all. Prior to diving into the world of foreign cinema, I'd never come across a novel that spliced together fiction and science. Sure, some stories added dashing here and there, but none to the extent of Brave New World. Although the interconnection with science piqued my interest, there certainly wasn't what kept it. For the first time in my life, reading became applicable. Never did my subconscious count the pages left, or even look at the page number. Their alternate futuristic reality took me in to get all I needed to my own reality, to the world around me. From the very first pages describing tested fertilization to some of the very last describing the use of drugs to avoid basic difficulty, the words floated off the paper into the depths of my consciousness, manufacturing connections, while simultaneously releasing control levels of endorphins. Your dystopian world made me realize how much I truly overlook each and every day. Being the science geek that I am, the newest information on tested fertilization and stem cell research always finds its way into my knowledge base. Every once, however, I even consider the effects of in society. A world in lack of mothers, brothers, and genuine compassion. Nature of dystopia with a near story opened my eyes to the mothers neglecting their children, the increased interest in abortion, and the death of compassion via text messaging, instant messaging, and the internet. Just as the bullying world relies upon conditioning in adolescents who catches subliminal slogans, our world thrives upon societal pressure at the very moment of bloom. Most of human interaction relies upon fitting into molds set by society. It's everywhere, in ads, in sports, in fashion, in education. They're not only surrounded, used for them the consciousness of my surroundings and making them. Beyond application to the real world, however, that's something that is much more important to me. Application to my own life. When I read of someone who stupefying drug resistance creation to deal with their day-to-day problems, it reminded me of something I've done for as long as my memory travels back. Challenge straightens me, plain and simple. Failure frightens me. Difficulty terrifies me. Instead of facing it head-on, I used to open my own doors into someone. With the slightest headache, a few times, with the slightest drop of hardness and caffeine tablet. Worst of all, with the slightest lack of focus, to you out of it. Something, somewhere, somehow something in my brain told me it was okay to take a couple of next sessions to simply focus. Bring in the blood, increased blood pressure, liver complications. All my future if my habits are the same. Reading the use of Selma awakened me to the danger of using harmful drugs to circumvent difficulty. Literature finally became applicable to my own life. I love it. As of now, no longer are stories just stories to me. They are lessons we learn, examples to follow, and sometimes destinies to alter. Brave New World cascaded into novels outside the lights of stone that reminds me of the ever-present deeper meaning behind each and every seemingly simple story. Thank you, Mr. Hudson, for providing me with the consciousness of the world around me. Thank you for providing the consciousness of myself. Thank you for allowing me to see the purpose behind fiction. Above all, thank you for helping me truly enjoy reading. With gratitude and sincerity, so forever.
Really contributed to my learning today. You know, that's the thing about this program is the power of an author and a reader and what happens when those two things come together. And you're teaching me today things that to reflect upon and to know that education and what you do with reading and writing and engagement in the classroom means something. And that is so important to me. And I'm a lifelong learner. You are all lifelong learners, and that's what's important. And I congratulate all of you on your awards. And I ask you all want to go back into the audience, and we'll give you one more round of applause. And thank you again for Rhode Island author, and we're very excited to have you here to continue the celebration. It is an honor that in the 2014 Read Across Rhode Island, we have selected Chris Grabenstein as the author of the New York Times bestseller, Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. And he's co-author of one of the #1 bestsellers, I Funny, I Even Funnier, and Treasure Hunters. He is an award-winning author whose haunted mysteries and hilarious school presentations have won him thousands of fans. Chris and his wife live in New York City with their 3 cats and a dog named Fred. Can't ask for a better introduction. We're going to welcome Chris Rubenstein to have speak. Thank you.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. My dog Fred is at home sleeping in when I'm home. He gets up at 6:30 in the morning and says, come on, we gotta go. My wife is always showing me pictures of him sleeping on the couch at 8 o'clock when I'm not there. Apparently I am a sucker. But Fred was a Broadway star, so it's always exciting. He was a stray dog that got rescued and put in the Broadway show Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So he has the best credits of anyone in our family. But being here today, this was really something for me because You know, writers, our life is pretty solitary. We kind of sit in a little room with a cat on our lap maybe, and Fred the dog comes in, and there's nothing. And these letters that you guys have written, first of all, I'm impressed at what great writers you are. I give a great round of applause for that. Hearing about Brave New World, I remember when I was in high school and we had a debate, which is more realistic, 1984 or Brave New World, and everyone said 1984, and I said, no, Brave New World, because it had the soma and all that stuff that made it easier to be in the dystopian society. But I wanted to just give you a quick view of what it's like on the other side to get these letters, because I get emails all the time from writers, and they are the most incredible thing to happen. All my friends, Wendy Mass, who wrote about Wendy Mass's book, she's a friend of mine, so I'm going to tell her that I liked her book so much. And I hope she wrote back to you. Did she write back? I don't have a word with her about that. I try to write back to every kid who writes to me, and sometimes they'll just break your heart. I got a letter from a girl who had not read a book her entire life. She had some sort of learning disability, and at age 12, she had never read a book, and she finally finished Escape from Mr. Lemoncell's library, went in to tell her parents at 11 o'clock at night. She was weeping, they were weeping. She wrote me an email, and then the parents wrote me an email. I called my wife, and people were weeping all over the country that night. And then there's a very smart girl, I guess a lot of you are going to get copies of this book, who wrote me just last week and said, Mr. Grabenstein, on page 212, her character Sierra Russell stays in one room while the rest of her teammates go into another room to work on some puzzle solving. On page 213, well, that's 2/2015 again, said Sierra. How could Sierra say that? She wasn't in the room. And on page 214, just then Sierra burst into the meeting room. So she was right. I wrote to her and I CC'd everybody at Random House, said, we need some new copy editors, let's hire her. Because you know how many adults look at these books before they get published? And not a single adult caught that. I didn't catch it. We worked on this book for 2.5 years, and she's the only one to catch it, so she has a career ahead of her. So it's a great honor for me to be here, and with you guys especially, I feel really good seeing you young guys with such minds and such ability to write, because it gives me hope for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming, and we have refreshments, we have a cake, and could all the semifinalists and finalists and honorable mention please come up for a photograph. And of the level 1 semifinalists, we will begin the writing workshop very shortly, probably in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you all.